Welcome back to No Plasters on Learning Now TV. This year we're going to do another little different thing because we've already done the top tips thing, we've already done the interviews outside of our learning and development bubble. But this year I was thinking, well, what would help learning practitioners in post to really get the best out of these little pieces on Learning Now TV? So I thought if we thought about themes, that would be useful. And today's theme, we're going to start a series of themes on community. Now, many of you will know that I'm really a big proponent of online community and the value that online community can bring. Of course, this whole series of No Plasters started on Twitter, which is a community that I value very much in my practice. Today I'm going to be talking to Professor Eddie Obeng of Pentacle and Henley Business Schools. Eddie's got a very interesting take on how we can bring community to an online space. Welcome, Eddie, to Learning Now TV. Thank you for talking to us today. I'm very curious about your thoughts on community and what the value that brings, things like communities of practice, for example, to workplace learning.
Yeah. Can I do it in reverse and explain why workplaces usually don't have communities? And it's simply because over the years, many organizations like to control and manage the people within their sphere and to train them up the way they wanted. And they've built a lot of skill and capability, but they like to have control. The whole thing about community of practice, even in an organization, is that the line loses control. So even when they say they want to do it, they're secretly hoping that they don't have to. So that underlies it all. But the real thing is that there's a real need for learning. I mean, over the past 20 years, the pace of change goes up faster and faster exponentially. Yep. And as it gets faster, more complex, it becomes more interdisciplinary. Solutions from one area impact on another area. So you might know a little bit about robotics, but it could be useful actually in helping people to learn how to provide better health. There's always such a huge overlap. So having a community of practice, which brings in many different people who are doing things, is absolutely essential, but very difficult for organizations, especially hierarchical organizations, to get their heads around.
I think you've hit on a point there that we're stuck in this triangle and that issue of control.
Yes.
But what I think is really important is this stuff's going on anyway.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the value of the water cooler conversation or the smoking huts back in the day.
Yes.
Maybe that's the bicycle huts or the gym now. But having those spaces, those physical spaces where people can connect with each other and learn is great unless you're in a global company or even in a UK-based company spread across a different geography. And there's some challenges in that. The move into online as a result. Can you talk us through what sorts of things you're doing in that online community space?
Yeah, so what I did was I took a look at how people engaged online. And part of the challenge with a lot of online engagement is it forces you to use text. Which is great. Which is great. But
so webinars, for example,
you type things, or even chat rooms, you type things, somebody responds. You actually never have a conversation like we're doing now. When people speak, they repeat themselves for emphasis, so you know what's important, you can get the nuance. But with text, you lose all of that. Also with text, you lose the immediacy of it. So to a certain extent, you know, it might be a question I asked yesterday, which is really important to me, and it's only been answered today.
So that asynchronous issue when you've got people in a forum learning together, but it's quite a stilted conversation.
Exactly, exactly. So I looked at all these elements, and I looked at the other element, which was the importance of being able to ensure that you could have multiple different types of conversations, not just always one-to-many, but one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many, small groups together. And actually the serendipity of bringing people together in small groups is fantastic. So I started looking at how do you create a community which allows you to do all of those things. And that's why I've been putting my efforts over the past 4 or 5 years or so.
Okay, so the community that you've created, how does it actually work in an online space? Because of course you've got people all over the world, all over the country coming together. What does it actually feel like to be in an online community where you're not just typing?
Yeah, so the most crucial thing was allowing people to talk and type and show each other things, documents, pictures, and so on. So the only logical solution is to move away from normal online media, on social media, and to go into virtual reality space. Because in a virtual reality space, you can copy everything which is done in real life and add some extra sprinkles on top.
Okay, so now many of our practitioners in post are going, virtual reality, I can't get involved in that, we don't have the budget, you know, all of these things. This whole series of No Plasters is about top tips. Okay,
exactly.
So actually, virtual reality, when we were at Learning Technologies just recently, was everywhere.
Yeah.
And what does it look like practically? I mean, you can't have people sitting around with headsets on.
Exactly.
You can't have, conversations happening in offices while, oh, sorry, don't interrupt me, I'm just putting my headset on so I can chat to South Africa or wherever. What does this look like?
Okay, so the first thing we did was we realized that for an office environment, the headsets were out.
Yeah, good. Okay.
So that we don't use headsets. So you just use your normal computer, because we also realized companies weren't going to invest any more money in kit.
Okay.
So you use your normal computer.
There's a practical view there about just what kit you already have. Right,
the kit you have, as long as you can plug something in your ears so you can hear, and you've got a microphone, what happens is the human sense of vision is so powerful that if you're in a space which you can move around by, say, using your arrow keys, within 2 or 3 minutes, you forget you're looking at a flat screen. You literally, it's like a really good movie, when you go to the movies and the screen's really large and you can't see the edges and you get drawn into the storyline. It's like that, but a little bit more powerful. And so, of course, now you can talk to people, you can sit down together and so on.
So what I'm hearing, Eddie, is the fact that you can feel in this space. And I think that's the difference between real community online and community that doesn't quite work. So I talked earlier about having the chat over the garden fence.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe it's your sports club or something like that. And it's because you feel a connection to people. So when you use virtual reality for community online, you actually get a sense of being there.
Yeah, the way we tell is the amount of laughter. There's a tremendous amount of laughter.
What a lovely measure.
We should
measure that all the time for learning.
There is so much laughter because people feel very relaxed. What you've discovered, things like introverts, once they're in a virtual environment, they're there as an avatar, so they don't feel exposed. So they join in, and so they come to life, and you get this whole dynamic which you wouldn't otherwise get. And we made our avatars really simple, so you can't tell whether somebody's senior or junior, male or female. Can't tell anything about them except maybe their name and from their accent. And so everyone mucks in together. Okay. And it's quite intriguing because you leave behind, how sometimes you bump into people, and even if you're in a community and that person, you want to talk to them or connect with them, but they look like your old geography teacher you hated. And so you can't, but you lose all of those barriers quite easily.
So you become an avatar online and you have the opportunity to talk to each other. Do just tell us the name of your platform. So
it's called Cube, qube.cc is the website.
Okay, great.
So that's what we've been using to bring people together. But there are other things which we've also realized, which is that to make a community work, you have to have something which triggers people to remind them to go back there. So that's very, very important. Yeah, exactly. Purpose, a reminder to do it. It has to be easy, because even if they're motivated, if it's difficult to get on, they're not going to come back. So they have to be able to click twice, join for 2 or 3 minutes, meet people, engage with them, and then disappear again. So there's that dynamic movement. We've also discovered things like if you can persist and leave some of the answers for other people to trip over, then other people join the conversation as well, and then ping you and say, you were talking about this, what about that? Excellent. And they drag you in.
I'm sad to say we have to bring this conversation to a close today, but it's been really interesting hearing how it is possible, all things are possible when it comes to moving online. I mean, for my purposes, you know that community is important. I just want to explain to everybody that it's about taking the chance of trusting people to have conversations, because let's face it, they're having these conversations anyway. Do you know where the good conversations are going in your organisation? Do you know where people are having the opportunity to share, where that community of practice is? And if you know, then you can actually help them and facilitate those conversations. Until next time, thank you.